Hello and welcome. I'm a little bit late with the commentary this week. I usually try to get something posted by Friday. That's because I am traveling for a conference, as you can probably tell. I am talking to you from a hotel room, in this case, a very pleasant hotel room in Regensburg, Germany, which is a very pleasant small city by the Danube River and a couple of other rivers. What I'd like to talk to you about this week is a small item that I saw in the news that struck my interest. And this is an item from Serbia. It says that in Serbia, during the coming months, there are going to be two events, both of which are going to be popular among members of and sympathizers of the international religious-based right wing. In Belgrade, they will have, this is sponsored by the city government, I believe, the Belgrade Days of the Family. And you understand that when the word family is used in this context, they mean a very specific thing by the word family. At the same time, there is going to be what they call an International Summit for Life, Summit za Život, which is sponsored by this organization called Savez za Život, the League for Life, which is associated with some regional and possibly some international groups. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute, but I think what I need to tell you, just to begin with, is that on the political scene in Serbia and in Belgrade, this is a small and pretty marginal group that struggles to get publicity and struggles to get supporters. Having said that, there are some connections on the international level. There are connections on the regional level, where in fact, in Croatia there was, I believe this no longer exists, a group with the same name, Savez za Život, which also went under the name Pro Life. So Croatian pro-life, not to be confused with the dietary supplement of the same name. And this is a group that was involved through its associates in a lot of things, with a referendum in 2013, a referendum that in this case passed a constitutional amendment forbidding the parliament to ratify same-sex marriage. Although what they wanted to do originally was a referendum banning abortion, their polls showed they wouldn't win that, so they went for marriage instead. They have also been working on things like trying to get academic journals to censor or withdraw research articles. And this is an organization, although this organization has not survived, the organization that gave birth to it, the political organization In the Name of the Family, or if you want in the local language, ime obitelji, In the Name of the Family, is still there, still active. They had this success in 2013 with the referendum. Similar groups tried to repeat this success with a similar referendum in Romania in 2018, but it didn't pass. Now, these groups are part of at least a loose network with similar groups operating in Poland, in Hungary, with a big base of activity in Russia, where there is a similar appeal to association of right-wing political demands, especially related to social policy, with association with religious organizations. So if you want to talk about this kind of summit for life that's being organized for this coming month in Belgrade, similar summits have been organized in the previous months in Australia, in Uganda, in Argentina. Now, on the domestic level, the range of contacts that this group has is narrow. Basically, we're talking about some circles, the politically engaged circles within the Serbian Orthodox Church, and some Serbian Orthodox Church associated political parties on the far right, like Tverdi, for example. Now, there is also, I think, some indication in previous research that there is a larger international network. This is a network that involves Putin-friendly and religious-associated groups based primarily in the United States, which provide organizational expertise and probably to a more limited extent some money to groups of this kind. What you might want to ask is, what is the appeal of these kinds of movements, which are mostly based in evangelical religious organizations in the United States to people in the world of Southeast Europe. And let me say in the beginning that I think this is probably not a post-communist phenomenon. That is not a response to the ideology of the communist period, which was in general hostile to religion. There was a religious revival at the time of the replacement of communist regimes with whatever kind of regimes you think exist in that region now. I think it came and went, and it was pretty limited. A lot of it was limited to assertions of political power by religious organizations and people declaring that they are religious believers, but not accompanying this declaration with any kind of increase in religious practice. I think probably the roots of it go more deeply, and they go into anti-global sentiment, which is motivated often by material concerns and also by fear, and anti-modern sentiment that goes back very, very far, as long as there have been modern movements in the region. So these are phenomena on the global level, and they're amplified, particularly as they relate to things like fertility policy and birth and abortion and promotion of families. With the regional demographic crisis, populations are decreasing and populations are getting older in every state in Southeast Europe except Kosovo, where populations are growing and the population tends to be very, very young. So this is a road into organization of the far right on the part of global religious-based political movements, and that is a strategy on the part of the far right that is pretty global. It is finding inroads and links into issues that are active, that are going to mobilize people and attract them to other issues on the far right. You could see this sort of thing happening during the time at the height of the coronavirus pandemic with the anti-vaccination movement, and in particular the insistence on things like bodily autonomy and freedom that was the center of a lot of the rhetoric of the anti-vaccination movement. You can see it now in several countries like the United States and the United Kingdom, with the sort of hysteria that is produced in terms of trying to encourage fear of transgender people and to say that they are a threat to things like public spaces or to competitive sporting competitions, regardless of the absence of evidence on these points. You can even see it in some minor issues. It's an organizing principle of some of the opposition to, if you can believe it, traffic regulation in states like the United Kingdom, where there is a movement to impose traffic regulation in cities. Now, this is all part of the phenomenon that we have noted before and that people tend to insist on, and that is that states in the region, in the semi-periphery of Europe, are the objects of the projection of international power. This is nothing new. This is something that we already knew, that the projects of power of the Western forces, the dominant Western forces like Europe and the United States, of the power of Russia and of emerging powers like China and some of the oil states. So to say that these states are the objects of projection of international power, this is nothing new. But what I think you see with movements like this is that they are not only the objects of projection of international power from states and the other obvious places, but they're part of the projection of international power of movements that organizes on the basis of different types of ideology, including far-right ideology justified by religion, like you're seeing in this instance. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops.